Hello and welcome to this episode of the Metal Verbalizers podcast. I am Johan Verbalizer, and today I have a new great band to recommend, Taskforce Toxicator. Taskforce Toxicator is a thrash metal band from Germany and was officially started in 2017. Before this point, the band had been rehearsing for a while to check the chemistry between the members and make sure that everything worked before officially starting as a band. Afterwards, the band started playing a few shows in Germany and then quickly started playing a small tour in Israel. This was possible thanks to Taskforce Toxicator's friends in the Israeli band Black Satchback. This small tour in Israel became a big success for Taskforce Toxicator, and they felt at this time that the band really started welding together. After this, the band played a few more shows and then released their debut EP the same year after in 2018. When it comes to Taskforce Toxicator's influences, a must mention is the old school Metallica records, up to And Justice for All. These albums have been very influential for Taskforce Toxicator as a band. However, other bands from the Bay Area have also been very important influences, such as Exodus, Death Angel, and Testament. There are also songs with a lot of Slayer vibes to them, such as the songs Oppressor and the song Commercial Confessions from the band's upcoming record titled Laser Samurai. Personally, I also feel that songs like Two-Stroke Killing Machine by Taskforce Toxicator also have a lot of Slayer vibes to it. The sort of like aggression to it, I would say. Kind of gives me a lot of Slayer vibes in that as well. On top of these old school influences, Taskforce Toxicator is also very influenced by the type of like crossover thrash, such as bands like Municipal Waste and Dr. Living Dead. In addition, there are also a lot of melodies and roots that are reminiscent of classic heavy metal bands, such as Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, for example. But the members of Taskforce Toxicator are also big fans of other genres outside of metal, such as synthwave, for example, which the band believes has influenced their music, but in a much more subtle way than the metal influences I previously mentioned. So you can definitely kind of like if you really like think about it and really like try to listen for it, I think that you could probably like notice that at certain points, but it's not as like obvious and as clear as the metal influences, so to speak. And I mean, I would say like generally, if you like Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning era of Metallica, or like like the old school stuff, like for example Bonded by Blood era Exodus, you will definitely like Taskforce Toxicator, because the riffs have elements that are reminiscent of that. Also, if you're into hardcore music, like hardcore punk music, there is a lot to enjoy in a band like Taskforce Toxicator as well. It's kind of like not the least, I would say, like how Taskforce Toxicator are kind of like combining the like heavy and fast metal riffs with the kind of like I guess you could say like the hardcore attitude, similar to how kind of like bands like Sick of It All or Agnostic Front are doing, like the kind of like thrash metal riffs with the kind of like attitude of hardcore bands like that. But Taskforce Toxicator has made it very clear that they are not a copy of any of these bands, and that they are putting their own spin on it, and I really agree with that. You can definitely, as I kind of like mentioned before, you can definitely notice these influences relatively clear, I would say, in kind of like Taskforce Toxicator's music, but it's not like a copy. Even if you're a fan of these bands, it's a reason to why you should check out Taskforce Toxicator. So it's not like you can listen to them instead. You should definitely check out Taskforce Toxicator. I really think that the image that Taskforce Toxicator is going for is really interesting. The image is something that the band spends a lot of effort with, and I think that it really shows. The singer of Taskforce Toxicator came up with this idea of creating a science fiction type of universe in which many of the band's lyrics take place in. In this universe, the character known as the Toxicator is like an intergalactic warrior armed with like a laser katana called Oppressor. The band actually has a song about this laser katana titled, well, Oppressor. The lyrics of the band follows the Toxicator where he adventures in space and fights ruthless dictators and stuff like that. However, there's also a lot of kind of like serious social commentary present in the lyrics, and they're also like intentionally written to let the listener interpret things a little bit in their own way, so to speak, which I think is really cool. The band has the space/sci-fi theme in the lyrics, but they are also very, very clear about their stand against injustice and oppression, which is also very noticeable in the lyrics. On Taskforce Toxicator's upcoming album, Laser Samurai, they feel that they managed to really nail this combination between the sci-fi theme but also like the social commentary. And also that they managed to really like succeed in making the music, lyrics and artwork really complement each other in a good way. And this is something that Taskforce Toxicator think that they really nailed on the upcoming record. So like this alone is something that made me like immediately even more excited for the upcoming album than I already was. When it comes to the future of Taskforce Toxicator, they will be releasing their album Laser Samurai later this year and will be touring to support this release in September. They're also currently planning the first shows that they will be playing in the next year, which is 2024. They have both support shows for bands like Blitzen, Stallion and Sodom planned, but they have also planned some headline shows. Taskforce Toxicator will also be releasing 5 music videos with songs from the upcoming album, starting from the 7th July and ending sometime in like the start of November. So there's going to be quite a lot of new interesting stuff coming from Taskforce Toxicator in the very near future that you should definitely keep your eyes and ears open for. Another little cool thing is that Taskforce Toxicator is already working on some demos for a follow-up to the upcoming album. The plan right now is for the band to be able to record the next album in 2025. So hopefully we won't need to wait very long for another new album after Laser Samurai is released now. As you've probably noticed by now, Taskforce Toxicator is a very hard-working band that you should definitely give attention to. Having said that, I believe this is a great way to end the episode. We at Metal Verbalizers really appreciate that you've been listening to this episode until the end. If you enjoyed this episode, then it would be great if you'd like to give us a follow and help us spread the word. This way you can support both us as a podcast, but also the bands that we're verbalizing. We will be back next week with more verbalizing.